Good day, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the second webinar on best practices, technology best practices for churches here. This is the second in a series of webinars for the Diocese of Washington on topics of communications and technology, designed for our parishes and organizational leaders and partners here in the diocese. Now, if you have questions during this session, please feel free to email training@edow.org. Include your name, parish, and the question that you have, and we'll do our best to address those at the end of the session. So today we're talking about best practices, and these will cover several areas. The first question we'd like to address is why. And we ask this at the beginning of each kind of webinar, really, because why is what is the purpose of having best practices at all? Technology is often a mission-critical aspect of our work, and having best practices in place enables that technology to function efficiently and effectively, and we can often prevent many things from happening by doing so. What are the challenges in the current system? Some key questions. So the challenges in the current system, what are we not able to do that we would like to do? What can we do, and what would we like to do better? What are our hopes and dreams for the system? So identifying these things and talking about why, the why of everything is a critical first step. So today the 5 areas I'd like to look at are these 5 areas that you see: computers and networks, website and social media, electronic communications, membership and financial systems, and security information. So we'll cover these 5 areas, and this information also will be available on the website. A summary of these notes from this session will be available on the website, and I'll give you the link at the end of the session. There'll also be other resource documents online for you to look at. So I will let you know about that. Thinking firstly about the vision and purpose for the church. Why are we using technology to begin with? What do we want to use it for? Where and when are we going to use it? And how are we going to use it? So thinking firstly about asking these questions. We don't know really how we're going to use the technology until we identify the specific questions that need to be asked. And the technology plan is really a good place to start. Before we start looking at the best practices, creating a technology plan for your church is a critical and essential piece of this entire puzzle. It can be done with a team, a small team. It contains your vision, your mission for technology in the parish, the goals you would like to achieve. What is it you would like to achieve with technology so the technology can serve your needs and not the other way around? In the technology plan, you'll have all of the principles, the mission for technology in your parish, including an inventory, contracts, ongoing costs and updates, and how the budget for the technology ties into your operating budget. It's really essential these days to tie in the costs and ongoing costs of technology into the operating budget, including technical support, which is a key component of that. I have templates for these technology plans, and these will be available online. I'll give you the link at the end of the session. What I really like to refer to this as technology with intention. Technology with intention is where you identify the goals and the objectives that you have in your parish for technology, no matter what they are, whether it's video work, communications, email, church databases. These all form part of the technology. Firstly, identifying what your goals are, what you'd like to be able to do. Identifying that broadly, and then seeing how technology can intentionally serve those needs, rather than picking out the technology first and then proceeding to see how well it can do for you. So following a process of adoption, technology adoption is extremely helpful. Only buy the technology that you need for your goals. Most important, because oftentimes there's the propensity for technology scope to creep, to broaden, to expand, and to say, like, what is a cool thing to have, what is something that you think would be good, but without necessarily identifying how it serves those key goals, how it serves that fundamental mission for your technology in your parish. So I'd like to begin with looking at the computers and networks area, and look at the computers and networks area. And for some people, of course, they have a feeling of dread when facing computer tasks and projects, and so what we can look at here is common complaints relating to computers and network challenges. Now, this kind of, fairly common: management of systems, the server keeps crashing, website is horrible, we want something different, the system is haunted, there's a poltergeist in the computer, and so on. But we can follow some simple guidelines and practices and can aim to move past these and into a more functional and efficient environment. So firstly, a parish technology team, and really helps to have the leadership involved in the team and key players in your team, probably a small team, but maybe slightly larger than what you see in the photo, but definitely some key players, people who have experience. Don't be afraid to reach out and recruit in the parish. Bring anyone in who has some experience or some desire to learn or be involved in some way. It can be a small team or a larger one, but the idea is that these people are the key players as far as mapping and planning technology and ensuring on an ongoing basis that it is there to serve the needs of the parish. So looking at some best practices, the technology plan, which we talked about just now. The technology plan is a key critical part of your computers and network management. In fact, it covers most of the areas of technology that you have, but specifically these areas, and will be very helpful. It's a reference document. It's dynamic. It's changing over time, but it's a resource document and something that you'll update and refer back to. An equipment inventory is something that you can often start with. What have you got in place now? What's working and what isn't working? And then you can assess from there, when you've done that, what's working, what isn't working, and how you can begin to look at improving it and building in a budget for these items, because that is a key and critical part, is to have in your budget cycle regular expense lines for technology, upgrading systems, and so on. An equipment purchase cycle. The purchase cycle is something where every 3 to 5 years you should look at replacing your computers. 3 to 5 years. These are mission critical computers, laptops and office machines and so on. Rather than waiting for the unthinkable to happen and flames and smoke to come out of the machine, look at how you can either lease or purchase computers on an ongoing basis in the same way as you do with a car, where you do maintenance and then you replace it after a period of time. Then it's a good idea to do this with your computers as well. So I would look at also the professional computer support. Ongoing maintenance and support is a key and critical part. Establish a professional support relationship with a provider. Even if that person comes only perhaps once a month to check on your systems, make sure everything is okay, do a tune-up for a couple of hours. That in itself is enough to prevent often some disasters from happening, and to alert you also, more importantly, to things that are potential things that need to be addressed, such as equipment is aging or equipment is malfunctioning and needs special attention. So it isn't necessarily going to solve all your problems in one visit, but it's definitely going to keep an eye on how your systems are running. In addition, often volunteer support is something that works well at first, but often the volunteer gets burned out or reluctant to continue being the on-call support. So having that professional computer support and an affordable computer support option is a great best practice to follow. In addition, training. Training is one of the most neglected areas of technology and underestimated as well. It's been shown that users who receive technology training actually make less mistakes, are able to work faster, and need fewer technical support, less technical support than people who do not receive training. And there are some great online websites now where you can go and receive training and experience that and point people to. And some of them are free. And again, the link at the end of this workshop, at the session, I'll point you to that, and you'll see some free. Actually, there's some links at the end of the session which I'll show you, and so you'll see them there. Websites and social media. We might wonder with all this can be a bit of a mysterious area for some parishes. And so the question of, we might wonder, what's the purpose of investing in websites and social media? How will it benefit our parish? Like, why follow all this stuff? What difference will it make to us? Well, consider this. As of May 2013, 72% of adults use social networking sites. The total users on Facebook, a social networking site, is now 1.5 billion. The fastest growing demographic on Twitter is the age group 55 to 64. And this age group has grown 79% in the last year, since 2012. Fastest growing group on Facebook is the 45 to 54 age group, jumping by 46%. Americans are also very into mobile devices. 79% of users do not let their phones leave their side for more than 3 hours a day. In email, Americans receive on average 147 emails a day and spend over 2.5 hours reading emails. So in terms of churches, how does this apply to congregations? 61% of churches are now using social media. This is in Pew Research. 61% of churches are using social media. 68% of mainstream denomination church members wanted to connect, indicated they wanted to connect and interact with their church on social media. But only 25% of churches on average, only 25% of churches promoted events on social media, and only 28% of the parish clergy have a blog at this time. So there's a big disconnect there, a big disparity between the number of people who use this technology and use it constantly and frequently, and yet how the church is lagging in the response to this. And so that question of why, addressing the why, really in three areas we can look at the why of why this is a good idea. Firstly, to improve and broaden your communications. You can reach a large audience and quickly. You can connect and interact with the parish community and beyond, and issue calls to action, such as to pray for a special cause, pray for a person, to give money to support something, or a call to service in some form. So these simple goals of how this technology can help the parish, these three categories tend to be quite fairly comprehensive in how you can use this. Establishing a rationale is one thing. How does the jigsaw of this stuff fit together, so that when we look at some best practices, we say, well, how do these apply to the overall picture of our communications, our website, our social media? Well, the picture is, if you think of the church website as the front door of your church, the website is your front door. Generally speaking, you would maintain and keep your front door looking nice and welcoming to people, and you should do the same for the website. Everything else online, your social media, your Facebook pages, your Twitter, your YouTube, your video channels, your rector's blog, emails, etc., online worship and teaching, all of these things are in fact link back to your website, and your website links out to them in turn, so that you have this hub and spoke model where the website is the key, is the hub of information online, and use these other services, but they all ultimately point back to the church website. So think of the website as the information hub. Some best practices then for social media and websites. Team and strategy. Very important, the team and strategy. Thinking about how the communications team, and this is where a communications team is a key part of your overall communications approach. The technology team is largely focused on the technology strategy, the actual inventory of equipment, replacing it, how it's deployed in the parish. The communications team, which you would want to create, and it again can be a small team or a larger team, is something that is going to be essential for your managing your communications and creating a communications strategy. In a future session, we'll be looking more at social media and how to manage those areas of communications. And another workshop focuses on websites, assessing websites. So we'll go into more details on those. But for now, creating and forming a communications team that can create in itself, the first thing, a strategy on how you're going to build and deploy your online tools, your Facebook page, your website, your videos, and how these things will tie together. Secondly, know thyself. Before beginning to publish content, create it, begin to look at what are the gifts of the parish, what is the spirit of the parish, what is it that makes your parish welcoming and unique and something that you can speak about to the world. Thirdly, what is the content scope and focus? So one of the best practices that we have here is looking at the content scope and focus. Just because a cat video is great and funny and amusing, does that mean that it's worthy, for instance, of posting on the parish Facebook page? Cartoons, I mean, are these things that belong on the page, or are these things that belong on perhaps personal pages or elsewhere but not on the parish Facebook page? Identify the scope and the focus of how you can limit and emphasize what articles. For instance, if there are something articles of news around in the local media that relate to the church or the parish or church denominations in general, those things that are going to go, and you're going to post those online. Look at what type of information, what type of articles, and what is and isn't going to go on your site and on your social media. Begin to put a focus on it. Refresh the content. A recent poll, USA Today poll, found that while 15% of churches updated their websites more than once a week, 42% updated it less than once a month, and 7% updated the site just once a year. So you do not want to be in that 7%, or perhaps even in the 42%. Keep your site, keep your content refreshed at least several times a week, and that goes for your Facebook, your Twitter, your YouTube, or website. Keep the content fresh, and if you're communicating by email, make sure you do that. I mean, do that regularly and keep that on a schedule. Interactive. This is something that's often not quite understood as to what interactive actually means. One of the most attractive things about social media is that it allows you to have a lively, interactive conversation online with a large number of people. And so there are ways that you can use the tools available to make the most of the technology. When you post a sermon, for example, encourage people to tell you what they think of it. Post content with a question or a challenge to encourage feedback and interaction. Call on people's imagination and competitive spirit to speak up and get engaged. For example, you could ask people to post something, post a photo that they have taken in the past month that speaks to them of their faith, speaks to them of God, speaks to them of their spirit. Or you could also ask them to write something, to submit something for online publishing. Those involve each person who comes to your site, involve each person who comes to your community and your community online is as your community in the physical building. So being interactive, it's not just about having people in a dialogue, it's about allowing the audience to interact with you. And there are various ways you can do that with websites, and whether it is links to interaction on your social media pages, use of online forms, use of other interactive ways that you can bring people in. Finally, integrate your networks. Integrating the networks is something where you are integrating your online content. Again, going back to the hub and spoke model, the website as the hub of your information online, connecting out to your social media accounts, your video channel, your online photo services, all these things connected together. For example, Facebook and Twitter can be connected together so that you can utilize that to have Facebook posts automatically sent out on Twitter. You can connect your Google account to YouTube. You can do all kinds of things that effectively tie your systems together and allow for content to be cross purpose. So it's a very good practice to follow. And again, I'm available to help with those things, and more information will be available online about this. I'd like now to take a look at electronic communications. This refers to, outside of social media and websites, this refers to how we communicate electronically using email, using other means, and so there are a wide array of options available for communicating electronically, most frequently obviously using email and texting and cell phones. Inexpensive and accessible. The challenge is really in terms of communications, electronic communications, are what makes your communications unique, what makes you stand out. Are your communications consistent, and how are you creating that content? A few simple guidelines on that. Firstly, email. Email is something where we use that very, very frequently now, and using email addresses that match the church domain. So using email addresses that match the church domain. For instance, if your website is stjohns.org, use email addresses that also are at stjohns.org rather than at Verizon. Don't tie in email addresses to Verizon or Comcast. If you change those services, you lose that email address, and the email address for the church has then changed. So make the address portable and tie the email address into the domain of the church. Again, with email communications, use email signatures. Always put in the bottom of the signature, if it's from the church address, the email signature, the name, physical address, a link to a map, a link to the website, and a link to the blog, so that every email that goes out has that information in it. Being careful also with emails, in that sensitive or emotional content of those emails can often be misconstrued or misinterpreted by email. So choosing carefully in terms of pastoral or other issues how the email is used, and where sometimes a phone call is better than an email. So those things are important. E-newsletters. E-newsletters are becoming an increasingly more sophisticated and essential part of parish communications. Although, Americans, as we discussed, receive over an average around 147 emails a day, I guess that would be including spam. So you have a lot of competition. But a bulk email service to send out a newsletter is definitely is becoming a standard practice and something that every parish should be looking at. Emailing the newsletter on a regular day and time where possible. People will come to anticipate it and not just discard it because it came in the middle of the night and got lost in the other emails. Link your newsletter items to the full content on the website. Again, this comes back to the hub and spoke, linking your emails back to the website, which link out to social media, which link back to the website. Content is interconnected through your different networks. So ensure that follows in each and every email that you send out. Again, for this e-newsletter, set up a link on the website where people can subscribe to it or unsubscribe if they wish. Make that available, make that an interactive feature of your website. It's a really commonplace practice now, and something that would encourage every parish to begin to do. And also thinking of also don't abuse people's inboxes. There's often a temptation to add just another email. We forgot to say one thing, add another email. Try wherever possible, as absolutely essential, to maintain a regular schedule of emails that go out. And many good options exist for bulk email services. I'm definitely available anytime to advise on that. And there are some very good options available. There's one which I'll show you at the end of this session. Advertising is really a key part of a shifting target, really. It's something where one of the most commonly forgotten tools in advertising is using the congregation, using the parishioners, asking the parishioners to go out and ask other people to come to church, tell other people about church, talk to people about the church and the faith, say at least once a week or once a month, ask other people to get involved. So advertising is really a critical and essential piece of this. For advertising in terms of actual practice, focus on less print, more electronic, or targeted niche printing, such as postcards to people who have moved into an area, or for specific events, large-size postcards work very well. Also using things like yard signs, stick signs to indicate services, and bumper stickers have been shown to be effective as well, nicely designed and attractive bumper stickers. So think in terms of that. In terms of advertising, how you can get noticed online, consider listing your church on a review website. There are many of these out there, Merchant Circle, Yelp.com. Consider listing your church on one of those and adding some really nice, glowing, positive reviews of your worship services. Will definitely increase your visibility online, increase your online presence, and in doing so, allow you to utilize that when people do a search for a church in a specific area. So these are some of the tools that you can use in terms of advertising, and more information on this will be available online, and you'll be able to reference that, and I'll give you the link at the end. Finally, text messaging. Text messaging is something that to be used cautiously, but that can be used creatively when you begin to deploy it. For example, there are some churches now who use text messaging in worship services. For example, to submit a text message or send a text message during the service in relation to the sermon and have a Q&A session or a Q&A type session at the end of the service, so that people's responses, it makes the experience more interactive. We're responding to the sermon or something else in the service that caught someone's eye or that they wanted to discuss. That's an opportunity there for using text messaging. And if text messaging is used in terms of people who opt into it, ensure that it is an opt-in service. It's not something you subscribe people to. There are some very good bulk text messaging services, and I'll include those in the information online. And so use text messaging cautiously, but it can be used creatively, and it can be used quite creatively. So again, these just going over what we just went over, and these are all available online. I encourage you to look at those at the end of this session. I'd like now to quickly look at membership and financial systems. Membership and financial systems. Some best practices for membership and financial system. Firstly, please have a system. There are still a few parishes out there that use pencil and paper for tracking contributions and tracking members. There are some extremely convoluted ways of tracking membership and pledges, and the tools available nowadays, can be such a much easier task to accomplish. So please consider, if you do not have a system, look into getting a system for both your financial and membership systems. There are some great options out there now. Usability. When you have a system, if you're fighting with your system, If you're just not working for you, then consider getting some training or upgrade or replace your system. If, again, this is technology being intentional. If it is not working for you, then it is not working, and you can replace it with something that does work for you. Do not be afraid of undertaking that. Ensure that you subscribe for a solid support agreement, ensuring that if something happens where you need support, you have a number to call, and you have a particular person you can speak to who is an expert on this particular system, so that you're not left in a panic state without anything. Explore online options. One of the benefits of exploring online options, for instance, for membership systems, is that now you can interact directly from your system with parishioners, send them electronic pledge statements, send emails directly out of the system and track those, and allowing parishioners to have an online portal. And again, this is something where you can both save postage without having to mail everything, and interact more easily with parishioners. Online systems also often have the capability to be available on other devices, such as mobile devices and phones, making that system more portable and accessible from anywhere, not just in the church office. Back up the system regularly. Back up your data regularly. Most important, to not lose data. This is a key and essential part of your membership and financial systems. And ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm always available. If you have questions on specific systems, I can often point you in a direction that may be helpful for you. Finally, a few pointers, a few practices on the issue of security. Number one would be passwords. Passwords, have a password, create a password, and make it a secure password. Use passwords wherever. Use passwords to log into your computer and passwords online. That's probably one of the key and most essential parts. Make it a complex password that is at least 8 characters or more, that consists of a mixture of numbers, letters, and characters. 2, ensure Office computers are secured. That means log off when leaving. Keep the area secured. Always ensure that that computer equipment is not accessible just by anyone who walks in. Set up user accounts on the Office computer, for example, for each person who uses the computer, and restrict the permissions accordingly so that people cannot get in and cause some mischief in off hours. Ensure that your antivirus is up to date. Ensure that your software, your Windows or Mac software is up to date, and keep malware software installed if possible to provide additional protection. Again, backups. Backups. Ensure all data is backed up. Back it up regularly, frequently, and if possible, back it up off-site. Extremely important. There is nothing worse than the system crashing and having no backup available, or not a recent backup available. Finally, beware of email links and attachments. These days, email links and attachments have become more and more treacherous, carrying viruses. A most recent example being the CryptoLocker virus, which once installed on your computer and is transmitted by links in emails or attached files, and once installed, will encrypt your files, and the only way that you can supposedly decrypt them is to pay several $100s to someone overseas to get the decryption key to get your data back. Now just some smart tools. These are some tools that from this session I'm just suggesting to you to take a look at if you're not using them already. One is GCF Learn Free. This is a free website with great educational training tools on it. This is from the Goodwill Foundation and is a great resource, absolutely free, with lots of stuff on it, and they update this fairly regularly. Hootsuite is something where if you set up, when you've set up and begin to use your online social media accounts, Hootsuite is a system where you can manage all of these accounts from one system, and you can do this easily and effectively. Google Apps, we have a separate session on Google Apps, but certainly please contact me if you're interested on that. MailChimp. MailChimp is one of the bulk email systems out there, and I certainly encourage people to look at MailChimp. Even if they're using another system, look at MailChimp, simply because MailChimp has a very, very generous email quota, number of emails to send out a month, was 12,000 a month with 2,000 email accounts. So typically a parish can use that system for free, whereas other systems will charge, and it has certainly equal features to any other system out there. Finally, TextHub. If you're interested in sending bulk text, consider looking at TextHub. It's a great system for bulk texting. And if you have any questions at any time or you need to contact further, please contact me, pturner@edow.org. The website to look at with links is edow.org/digitalchurch.